How Avengers Infinity War sets up the new future of the MCU. After an unprecedented decade of build-up, Marvel finally declared Infinity War on its fans. The crossover to end all crossovers hit theaters last night, and, well, that's about all we can say about it without getting too deep into spoiler territory. So if you weren't part of the record-breaking crowds who saw the movie last night, then maybe stick a few Infinity Stones in your ears because you don't want to hear what comes next. We are going to spoil the hell out of this. Like, we gotta have it that many times.
Good.
Okay, so, holy f***ing shit. After 10 years, you'd think Marvel would be out of surprises. This is off script. My mind was f***ing blown. Oh my God. Like, what? I've been holding this in until everybody else saw it. It's been killing me inside. But the end of Infinity War sure did catch us off guard. This whole time we were taking bets on which of the original Avengers would be biting the dust. Instead, when Thanos snapped his big purple reality-altering fingers, it was all the new kids on the block that got kicked off the MCU playground. I actually worked myself up into like a fit. Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and all the Guardians except for Rocket turned to ash, and most of them hadn't even gotten their first sequel yet. While on the other hand, most of the old guard was left standing. In fact, every member of the OG 2012 Avengers roster is still on the board with the possible exception of Hawkeye. And honestly, do you care? But we're sure someone will go check up on him on that farm eventually. So what does all of this mean, and what does it tell us about the future of the MCU? Well, hate to disappoint any of you Tom Holland haters, of which you shouldn't even exist, because who the hell hates Tom Holland? That's stupid. Or anti-Boseman boys out there, but we're pretty darn sure they aren't gone for good, especially with all of those confirmed sequels on the horizon. Not to say that there aren't a few confirmed kills in the movie. Basically, anyone who died outside of Thanos' big magical purge is gonna probably stay dead. That includes Loki, Heimdall, Vision, and most likely Gamora. Honestly, though, that last one is a bit of a toss-up. It's clear she still has some sort of a role to play considering her connection to Thanos, but she's probably not going to return in the living, breathing green flesh. More likely, she'll take on some sort of mystical, otherworldly protector form, kind of like the Red Skull did in the movie. Everyone else we saw bite the dust. You should expect them to return. But how will that exactly happen? In the pages of the original Infinity Gauntlet comics, Nebula gets her hands on the gauntlet and uses it to reverse the events of the last 24 hours, bringing back the fallen heroes from oblivion. But while a lot of her arc in this movie closely resembles her arc in that story, we just can't see that final giant moment be given over to such a side character. Instead, we think it's pretty obviously going to be Iron Man who gets to save the universe, and that all hinges on Doctor Strange and his sudden willingness to value Tony's life over his sworn duty to protect the Time Stone. If you'll remember, when Strange looks into the millions of possible futures ahead of them, he only sees one where the good guys emerge victorious. It seems pretty clear that one future hinges entirely upon the actions of Iron Man, and that's why he gave Thanos the Time Stone in return for sparing Tony's life. He knew Tony was more important than any magical artifact. So what does Iron Man do to undo everything that just happened? Well, it's not impossible that he could wield the Infinity Gauntlet. It's happened in the comics before, and ever since the climax of the Avengers when Tony ended up on the other side of a wormhole, he's had a strange connection to the cosmic forces of the universe. Thanos even confirms this when he mentions that he's fully aware of Stark's existence. Could this all have been preparing him for the moment when he needs to slip on the big golden glove? On the other hand, maybe it will still be Nebula who makes the big sacrifice, just with a lot of assist from Tony. After all, she's the only one left with him on Titan at the end of the movie. But either way, Iron Man has to be the key to all of this. He is the beginning of the MCU, and he'll be there at the end. Or the end of this volume at the very least. Remember, a few weeks ago when Feige said Avengers 4 would be the end of a book and then Phase 4 would be the start of a new one. Well, there's no doubt that the main protagonist of this book has been Tony Stark, and it just wouldn't feel right to finish the story without bringing him to a full and satisfying conclusion. Of course, that doesn't mean we think he's going to die. After last night, we're not willing to make any guesses on who lives and dies for sure in the MCU. It might not have been our best moment. Or anybody's. That's the saving grace. We were wrong along with everybody else. But what do you folks think? Will Tony be the key to saving half of our favorite heroes? Is anyone really gone for good? And what the heck is Thanos gonna do all by himself on that farm? Answer: space corn. Let's discuss. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that little bell to get notified every time a new video pops. And hey, are you loving our week in review show, Nerdist News What the Friday? If you haven't checked it out, you can get it for free in podcast form on iTunes or wherever awesome podcasts are heard. And if you want to join in on the live video version to vote in polls and weigh in on the topics in the chat, then just head on over to projectalpha.com and use the promo code WTFriday to get a 60-day free trial.